Hi everyone, just recording this on my laptop to say this episode contains one passage that some listeners might find distressing related to infant mortality in the countryside. We'll put timestamps in the show notes so you know which bits to skip.
Your headphones aren't plugged in.
It's all right. I'll just keep that headphones on without it plugged in, and then I don't need to listen to you.
Well, touche.
You can kind of avoid you asking me awkward questions. Can you hear me?
No.
Good.
Oh, because you were muted. I'd muted you all the way down. Damn, that's not a good. That's not a good image.
One year
you were just muted. Yeah.
It just I had enough of him. Shut up.
That's where the podcast is at.
Yeah. It's
just welcome to Absolute Units. I'm Joe Vaughan.
Had enough. Shut him up.
Yeah.
He's really getting on.
He's really getting on my nerves.
Squeaky chair and his cluttering with his drinks and his long face.
We do both have drinks for this episode as well.
Yeah. Not alcoholic drinks.
Yeah, coffee.
I like how we leapt to...
Yeah, well, I think that's the tone of the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is not a boozy podcast.
I feel like we deserve a drink, though.
I don't drink.
Oh, do you not?
No.
Okay. Well, I could have two.
You have to. The non-alcoholic drinks are really good now as well.
I mean, I'll have my coffee and then I might have yours.
Well, gosh.
I'm not going to steal your
Bouncing off the walls.
Yeah. Are you having a coffee?
I'm having a coffee, yeah.
Yeah. It's like mid-afternoon and we're both drinking coffee.
Well, tonight we have the museum late for anyone who's listening. So the museum's staying, as you would expect, the museum is staying open extra hours. So I think we're open to about 9 o'clock and Ollie's doing a tour.
Joe and I both need coffee.
We're having coffee.
Can't stay awake beyond 5:30.
Is that your bedtime?
Yeah, I just
pajamas.
I hibernate when I'm not at work. I don't have a life outside the museum, Joe.
You're just living your rural life.
That's not true. I have a wonderful life outside the museum.
You have a great life.
Yeah, no, I have an amazing life outside the museum.
Yeah,
and it does sometimes involve me having to have coffee to stay up later.
Yeah.
Anyway, we digress. Already.
Well, welcome back to Absolute Units, the official podcast of the Museum of English Rural Life. I'm Joe Vaughan, the museum's social media manager.
And I'm Ollie Douglas, the museum's curator.
And this marks 1 year of Absolute Units.
1 year. We survived a year.
We did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a journey it's been.
Yeah. And I was just briefly reflecting when you, not that long ago, told me we ought to make a quick episode to celebrate a year of the podcast on, we're 1 year in, we're 10 years into the current gallery displays, which were installed in 2016. We're 75 years into the history of the museum because it's our 75th birthday this year, and 100 years into the history of the university, which is our parent institution. So lots of celebrating. But the 1 year, that seems the most important.
We really should have a cake, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
But I think the cake is the podcasts we made along the way.
That's disappointing.
It's a bit of a disappointing cake, isn't it?
I'd rather have an actual cake. An
actual cake would be good.
Shaped like a big sheep.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it has been an amazing year. And I think, I mean, I've said this a few times while kind of gushing on the episodes. It has just been amazing getting to chat to the people we've spoken to. And like all the interviews we've done, but also interviews like people we've spoken to about doing episodes that we never got around to recording. There are amazing things that will come in the next year as we follow up on all of the leads that emerged and all of the seeds we planted last year. Yeah.
They're going to grow into amazing podcasts.
An amazing, unexpected, spiraling, beautiful podcast.
Yeah. It's just a real privilege, isn't it, to come into work and actually carve time out of our day. And Joe and I both have sort of busy, complex working lives. There's my computer going, as always.
We're normally very strict about no computers at the podcast party, but we're breaking the rules today.
Just winging it.
Yeah.
But we get to come in, carve out hours in our day to have fascinating conversations with really interesting people about stuff that we're really interested in. And that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it really is.
Joe's just ignoring me now and looking at his phone.
No, well, I'm not. I'm actually attending to the good people of Bluesky, because unbeknownst to Ollie, 5 minutes before I came into the room, I posted unprompted on Bluesky asking if our followers want to ask us any burning questions, and that we would do our best to answer as many as we can.
On the spot. I hope you can answer them, Joe, because I probably can't.
We've got some amazing questions, and I think
are any about, are you drinking a coffee?
No, none are about that.
Okay.
But there are some really, really, really good ones already. So, and this was posted 9 minutes ago. So yeah, I figured, it's a little spontaneous episode. Let's see what people want to hear, and we'll go through them.
Let's do this.
So the first question is from Space Lawyer. Hi, Space Lawyer.
Hi, Space Lawyer.
Space Lawyer asks, what are the biggest misconceptions about your subject area that you see or are asked about?
I think everyone comes to this kind of collection with a whole load of preconceptions and ideas about what they're going to encounter. I think we reinforce an awful lot of those ideas because people think they're going to come into a museum that has smocks and plows and wagons and old farming stuff like that, that might have the odd picture of a big sheep or a big cow. We do all of that. So there's a danger that people come in here and they take away what they want from those displays, the stuff that they're familiar and expecting. But I think they don't expect us to be talking about the myriad of complex ways in which the countryside affects all of our lives, whether we live in the countryside today or not. They don't expect us to be talking about the way in which the world is made up of these connections that are global and interconnected and diverse and complex and varied. So I think they think we're going to be a museum that's a little box full of nice, nostalgic rural pasts, the kinds of things they might have encountered in a nice docudrama or some sort of bucolic novel of yesteryear. And we give them something hopefully that's a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think we have an interesting relationship with that misconception as well. I think we talked I think it was the episode about the Merle's 75th anniversary. We talked about the fact that when we were founded, we really were a shed of stuff. We were a shed of things that were found across rural England. And over time, we've kind of evolved to tell more of that story ourselves while still grappling with those tensions. Even the fact that we're called the Museum of English Rural Life. We are the Museum of English Rural Life, and we're also so much more, which at the same time speaks to the complexities of English rural life and what it is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think, and this is a misconception that runs through museum practice as a whole, I think, is that people come to museums expecting them to be solely about the past. And they're not really about the past. They're about the present, and they're about how we take ideas from the past and we reconstruct and reimagine them and make them part of our lives today. So they come to us expecting a timeline, a chronology, a sort of this begat that dotted history. And hopefully they come away understanding that lots of the stuff in this as a shed connects to their lives today, that, it's vibrant, it's living, even though it's in a museum.
I read a book about, I've not read that many like museology books, but I read one that was about engagement in museums. And the author referred to museums as like a creative technology. And I thought that was very, very interesting from the perspective of creating online content, because in a way it's like a museum is a tool that lets you think through things and engage with things. The collection is almost like a device for reflecting, and it's not just a static thing in a case. It's really interesting.
Definitely. We were talking about that earlier, actually, in relation to our current radical rural gallery trail, that actually in many ways it's a way that you and I have used to have conversations with really interesting people, a bit like the podcast, and use that as a vehicle for thinking through how we might build greater nature connectivity and agroecology and environmental conversations into the museum and its displays moving forward.
Yeah.
And it's all about a sort of conversation about the future as much as the past. But yeah.
So that is a really good link to the next question, which is from Samwise, Bluesky user Samwise Photo. Hi, Samwise.
Hi, Samwise.
I think it's Sam Wise, but I'm pronouncing it like Samwise from Lord of the Rings.
I was thinking Samwise Gamgee.
It's not Samwise Gamgee, I don't think. I think it's a man called Sam Wise. So, hi, Sam. Sam says, what doesn't the museum currently cover or touch on that you would like to include given the choice? And if I could jump in, Ollie and I were, as Ollie says, we were chatting earlier with someone who we're going to bring on the podcast very soon about the fact that so much of what the museum covers is about agriculture and culture and human technology. It's about ways that humans have sort of engaged with land and destroyed land through farming. And I think we'd like to think much more about nature, because nature is really missing in our collections. The Merle is, in lots of ways, it attests to how humans have torn up land to build and grow food, but not as much to how people have looked after the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, coming back to the way in which museums frame things, the tendency is for nature to be very much the province of a natural history museum. So we put our plant and animal specimens and our skeletons and our taxidermied beasts and our sort of slides of mycology and things in those kinds of collections, our herbaria samples pinned on bits of paper in those kinds of museums. And we put our tools for working the land and our tools for doing industrial things and our technologies and our craft objects and things in museums like this. So there's that nature-culture divide problematically runs through the way in which we treat the past and think about the past. So what we really need to be doing is working across those institutions and working in partnership with other people to bring those stories through. But in terms of that absence, I think absence is really significant and interesting. So a lot of what we talk about on the podcast connects to those absolute units, those livestock and those farm animals. And those farm animals aren't in the museum, but often the technologies that surround them and connect to them are. So if you think about, we don't have any horses. We have a large sort of basketwork wicker sculpture of a horse pulling one of our carts from the collection, but it's not part of the collection and it's not an actual horse. It's just a sculpture of a horse. But we have horseshoes and we have horse saddles and we have horse furniture and, we have the things that surround the horses. So even though the horses are absent, those more than human others, those
everything but the horse.
Yeah. It's there. It's there in spirit. It's got a kind of absence, a space. It occupies a sort of conceptual space in the museum.
It's interesting. It's almost like a disquiet, like there's sort of like it's being gestured to.
Yeah.
But it's not there.
And I guess the same is true, and this is a really significant thing in terms of cultural heritage. We have just become signatories in the UK to the UNESCO 2003 Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage. Intangible culture is all of those sort of lived experiences and practices and performances and activities that surround the kind of tangible things that we put in museums like the Merle. So we don't have intangible culture in here. We don't have the embodied knowledge and lived experience of these things active and being re-engaged with constantly over time in the museum space. But we do have the jumping off point for that. We have the inspiration. So when basket makers come in and they look at a basket that's been made in the past, they can sort of imagine and think through the practical ways in which they can re-engage with that technology and make it in the present. So they're sort of actively creating, like you say, it's a creative technology, a museum. It's a laboratory space for exploring these kind of intangible ideas around tangible stuff.
Well, speaking of the intangible and the ethereal and possibly the spooky, spooky's wrong. Spooky's not right, is it, in this context?
I don't know. We need to be talking to Mark Norman and, going back to Scooby-Doo.
Wait, let me rephrase that. Going from one kind of intangible to another, Bluesky user Piers Cooper, hi Piers.
Hi Piers.
Piers asks, what is the spookiest scariest item in the collection, and what aspect of rural life is it connected with? I think it has to be the what's it? I'm just doing a terrible hand gesture.
Gesturing. That's quite spooky.
That is spooky. The baby coffin
funeral bier.
The funeral bier.
Yeah. So for carrying a child's coffin. Well, that's a really sad object. I don't find it.
But isn't it apotropaic? Wasn't that the one that was in a wall?
No, that's the sedge mattress that sits above it. That could be apotropaic. So you're reading into it the kind of speculations that we like to build around these objects. But yeah, we can unpick a bit of that. I think the funerary bier is sad rather than spooky.
Right.
I think it's a sort of an object that speaks powerfully to child mortality in the past and how much more common that was. And so perhaps it's a reminder of a time when people were much more familiar with death and it was much more present in their lives. So that's an interesting sort of train of thought. The apotropaic object or apotropaic
Could you define
object,
apotropaic as well?
Yeah,
I realise
so these are objects that were used as a protection against harm, against the evil eye or against sort of witchcraft and things like that. And often these are objects that are found built into the home in some way. So they might be buried in the lintel or stuffed up a chimney or put in the attic and sometimes under floorboards. Common apotropaic objects or sort of ritual deposits of this sort include gloves, mummified cats, witch bottles, and witch bottles are kind of bottles that are filled with pins and hair and urine, and the idea is that if a witch crosses the threshold of your home, when the witch needs to go to the loo, they'll feel like they're peeing pins and needles. So it's a kind of sympathetic magic. It's a kind of cruel and unpleasant idea. The mattress that you're talking about would have been the kind of mattress that probably people slept on day to day, but they might also have been used for giving birth, and they might also have been used for laying out a corpse, because these are straw mattresses, essentially. Our example is made from sedge, and other examples are made from rush, but sometimes they're just made from straw. And essentially, it's an object that speaks powerfully to life course, because they're used in childbirth. They're used to sleep on during life. They might be used to lay out a corpse. They speak quite powerfully to that passing over time of the human body. Again, I don't think necessarily it's a spooky object. It's an object that could have been placed in the attic where it was found because of that connection with the body, because of that sort of connection with life course, and therefore it could be an apotropaic object. It could be one of these objects put in a deliberate way to protect the home. It could just be that it was shoved up in the loft, a bit like you might shove your sleeping bags up in the loft or a spare mattress up in the loft, or it could just be a practical thing.
It's interesting how museum objects can conjure forth these ideas.
Yeah. And what's interesting about the apotropaic objects is all of the examples of these things that have been found as deposits in the home in this collection haven't really been catalogued and described in that way. There was an amazing project some years ago led by Kerry Holbrook and Owen Davies about apotropaic objects called Concealed Revealed. And they were looking at all these sort of concealed objects and building a database of them. The ones in the Merrill collection weren't really catalogued as those kind of objects. They were catalogued as examples of what they were. So the mattress was just a domestic furnishing object. The sort of shoes found, often shoes are found in these places as well. The shoes were catalogued as examples of cobblers' handiwork or leather work or clothing. So they're, curators in the past were taking a very literal approach to these objects and not seeing the spiritual and those wider kind of framings. I think in terms of the spookiest objects that I know of in the collection, I think at night when you're wandering in the galleries or the stores on your own and there's no one else in the museum, all of these objects have a spookiness to them.
So I'm actually going to follow that up because we've got R. Scott Rogers' question. Hi, R. Scott Rogers.
Hi, R. Scott Rogers.
Who asks, are there any items you think are haunted? any you think should be? And if you could interview the ghost haunting an item, what would you want to learn from them? I mean, I would say, especially if you're like the last one in or walking around on your own, the wicker King Alfred is menacing.
He's not menacing. It was made. It's made by a nice Oxfordshire Thatcher for an Oxford College ball.
But if it was night,
yeah,
and it was just you, and then you saw it,
yeah,
and its eyes were glowing red.
Yeah, but its eyes aren't glowing red, and if they were, I'd be phoning the fire brigade because he's made of straw. And that would be that's a disaster waiting to happen. I think there are. I don't necessarily think of these things as haunted, but I think all of these objects carry those sort of microbiographical stories and connections to people from the past.
On a serious note, they are, aren't they?
Often long dead, and so they're a kind of intergenerational or cross-generational link to the lives of people who are no longer with us. For many people that feels like a form of haunting. They carry the resonance of those lives that are no longer with us.
And I think that's one of the kind of beautiful and strange things about a collection like ours, which is full of a lot of stuff. There are some things that are like really precious designed objects, but there's also a lot of things that are just things that were made for a practical purpose and used by working people, but they still carry the sort of stories and history of those people in their lives in a way.
Sometimes even the sort of patina and wear of the ways in which people held them and used them.
Well, the wagons, like the wagons that were made for different terrains.
Yeah.
They're all haunted by the fields and the ditches they went across.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a nice way to think about it. So and I don't think of those hauntings as spooky or negative or horror filled. They're the reason we hold this stuff. We're holding the sort of traces and legacies of those past lives.
Because it's haunted and because of what it means.
Yeah. They're hooks to hang the stories of people of the past on.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I should be picking specific things here and saying, well, that's the spookiest thing.
That's definitely haunted. Yeah. No. I think that's good.
There's some old dolls that look pretty
There's
spooky.
Also the mug in the shape of a face that's in the open store.
Oh, do you find that spooky? It's like the Toby Jug style mug.
Yeah, it's a bit uncanny.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure I find it spooky or...
I don't think I find it spooky either. But again, if I was in the gallery at night...
Quite a kind of comical face.
If I was in the gallery at night on my own and had red glowing eyes...
Yeah. And I'd have to call the fire brigade.
Like
Joe's brain's on fire.
With your second phone.
Yeah.
With your second phone.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Right.
But I wouldn't be there if you were in the galleries on your own with your glowing eyes.
But if you were, you'd be haunting me. That is the greatest haunting of all. The Haunting of the Merle by Ollie Douglas.
Do you think I'm...
15... is it 15 years, 17 years?
17 years. Do you think I'm destined to come back here in the afterlife and walk the hallowed halls of the Merle stores?
After rural life.
Looking for the object that I couldn't find 15 years ago and desperately trying to find it. Yeah. What a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
It's getting quite windy and spooky
windy as
outside.
Well. Yeah. Picking up.
Very atmospheric.
Okay, well, let's have a palate cleanser. So the next question is from Agatha Veronica. Hi, Agatha.
Hi, Agatha.
Agatha asks, what are you currently reading or what books would you recommend, both fiction and non-fiction? Okay.
I'm currently reading, I'm reading a couple of things. I'm reading a rather fascinating geological exploration of soil types in East Africa, which happened to be something the library were getting rid of because it didn't fit sufficiently within the parameters of English rural life. So I have it's a particular area of South Africa where the groundnut scheme happened, Kongwa, and it's got some very nice maps of soil, which are quite aesthetically pleasing to look at. But anyway, so mid-20th century soil book. That's very on brand, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm also reading Nicola Chester's latest book,
nice.
and hopefully we will get Nicola on the podcast. And I have just started. I've got too many books on the go. I haven't finished Nicola's book, which is amazing, and I'm really enjoying it. I've just started JC Nyala's new book, which is officially launched tomorrow or today, in fact.
Well, happy publication day.
And I should be saying yesterday because this is going to go out tomorrow, isn't it? I'm so confused.
Time has lost us.
Yeah.
But happy publication day to JC.
Yeah, happy publication day, JC. Check it out. Google JC.
We'll put a link in the caption. And I'm reading a book called Mia by Danielle Giles, which is about some nuns in an abbey in the Fens in the 10th century. And it's all very spooky, but it's amazing.
It's spooky again. There's a spooky theme
really
running through this.
I'm really into monks and like abbey religious history.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think started from working here in Reading because of Reading Abbey.
Right.
But I really like stuff set in abbeys and monasteries.
Deep dive in sort of monkish histories.
There's a lot of very good monkish media and content of the last few years.
Monkish media.
Big Monk. There was a really
Do
good
people
game.
talk about posting monk?
Posting Monk. Well, we can now if you want. There was an amazing game called Pentiment that came out a few years ago, which was set around a abbey in the 16th century.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
At some point, we'll have to go into farming games as well. That's a niche that we haven't explored yet.
I seem to remember Tim Jerome wrote a blog post about farming games where he made his poor mother play all these.
I think we should make you play them.
I'm not playing Grade Up to Elite Cow again.
No, but I think we should make you play Stardew Valley.
Okay.
Or another one. That would be great. I mean, if
it's like dragging me kicking and screaming into the digital era.
Yeah. Listeners, if you'd like to see Ollie play Stardew Valley and describe it, please let us know and leave a review. We will do it.
This has gone from spooky to terrifying. I have no idea what this is.
This whole episode and related content is just an exercise in improv and administration. Right.
Things that Joe wanted me to do, and he's now just putting me on the spot and deciding that I'm going to have to do them.
Yeah. The next question is, this is from Redragon. Hi, Redragon.
Hi, Redragon.
Redragon's picture is a dragon.
Awesome. That will appeal to the Welshman in you.
Mm-hmm. Redragon asks, and I think you need to answer this one because this is a more difficult one. How many oats does one have to give to be blessed by the Hog Father?
That is a very difficult question to answer.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know.
This is serious.
Because you put me on the spot now.
Yeah.
Many oats.
It's got to be at least like 500,000.
500,000 oats?
Yeah, well, think about how many oats you have in a bowl of oats.
Are you talking about a single grain here or a head of oats? Or
I think we're talking about single grains of oats.
Right.
But I think that's interesting for our work because I feel like when you work in rural history, or I guess in your case, when you're like a farmer's son, oats have different meanings. You may think of the crop of an oat. Whereas for me, I'm like, I think of oats as in a bag of Quaker oats.
Well, there must be a definition to this.
What is an oat?
An oat, a singular oat.
An oat. That's what, when you ask for oatmeal, that's what you mean. An oat. Oat meaning.
Well, oatmeal is meal made from oats.
An oat is a hardy cereal grain plant. Grown for its edible seeds.
Yeah, it's just the noun for the plant, you see.
So when we eat oats, is that the seeds of the oats?
Yes.
I don't know anything about oats. I'm a vegan. I've got oat milk in this coffee.
But surely that means you should know even more about oats and find out what you're consuming in your oat milk.
We'll have to do a future episode about this.
Which is more like oat juice or oat squish.
Oat squash. We'll have to do a future episode about this.
Yeah.
But we could teach me about oats.
Well, no, we could get on Alistair Cullum from Plant Sciences, who is the curator of the university's herbarium collections and looks after the Percival Wheat collection. So a really important and significant collection gathered by a man who quite literally wrote the book on wheat, or a book on wheat. I'm sure there's more than one, but so it's a really interesting collection. And he gathered examples of wheats and cereals from around the world and from the past. So examples from sort of ancient archaeological deposits and things, piecing together that history and telling that story of the sort of improvement and development of those cultivars. So there, there is an interesting story to tell there, but whether or not it will answer the question
of what is an oat?
Yeah, and also the question about the Hogfather.
Yeah,
which is.
I think they may have to ask the Hogfather.
I think it'd be another 17 years working at the Merle.
Yeah,
and I might be able to answer that question with more certainty rather than quite a lot of votes.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Hogfather, we had a question from Merrimack Farm Sanctuary, which is a lovely Bluesky account and also a farm in Charlotte, Vermont. So, hey, Merrimack team, shout out to you.
Hey, Merrimack team.
They also sent us a picture of their pig, Eugene, which I'm going to show Ollie now.
There's a nice pig.
Good pig. Eugene wants to know if absolute unit is metric, and if so, is there an imperial equivalent?
Ooh, well, an absolute unit would cover the sort of metric and imperial periods of history, wouldn't it? Because they were active in the imperial period and active now in a period where we seem to have gone increasingly metric. So, yeah. Did you grow up, Joe, in a period when you learned about feet and inches and yards?
Metric.
Entirely metric.
Virtually entirely metric.
The way you understand the world is metric.
But some things crop in like foot. Everyone uses foot and feet.
Yeah.
But it's metric for everything else.
So in terms of height, would you think of yourself in centimeters?
I think of myself in feet.
Okay.
But I would use metric for virtually everything else.
And if you were a horse, you'd measure yourself in hands. Or you wouldn't measure yourself at all.
What's this Adele song, If I Were a Girl? If I were a horse.
I think you now need to go away and learn that and sing it for us.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, excellent.
Cool. Thank you very much for the great question.
Yeah, thank you, Eugene. We definitely crossed both boundaries in terms of weights and measures.
Okay, cool. So the next question is from Anne Sheepdip. Speaking of Anne Oates, Anne Sheepdip. Hi, Anne Sheepdip.
Hi, Anne Sheepdip.
Anne Sheepdip asks, I love a small town museum, e.g. Whitby. What are your favourite museums apart from Merle and why?
Is Whitby where Captain Cook came from? Did I imagine that?
I don't know.
Bit of light, judicious Googling.
Yeah. It's home to the Captain Cook Memorial Museum. Isn't Whitby also where Dracula goes?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember that. Yeah. We're going off on Whitby tangents.
Yeah, Whitby is famously the English town where Bram Stoker set Dracula's arrival.
Right.
So Dracula arrives in England in Whitby.
In Whitby, where
had some good fish and
James
chips.
Cook grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what was the question again?
The question was, what are your favourite museums apart from Merle and why?
That's a really good question. I quite like museums with flat art or conceptual art.
Yeah.
I like art galleries.
Yeah.
Sometimes going to museums of social history or agricultural history feels a little bit too much like a busman's holiday. So I went to an amazing street art museum in Amsterdam, Straat.
I was going to say the Rijksmuseum, but I love the Amsterdam museums.
Yeah, just extraordinary museum. I went to a really interesting museum in Germany at a conference, the International Association of Agricultural Museums conference, and this was a bit agricultural, to be fair, and it connects to your interest in medieval monks because it was a World Heritage Site, Lorsch Abbey, where there had been an abbey, and in beside the Lorsch Abbey World Heritage Site, they now have Lorisham open air sort of reconstruction village, and it's a sort of reconstruction of a medieval village where they're doing ox ploughing, and watching ox ploughing was absolutely extraordinary. They're ploughing with these oxen. They're ploughing ridge and furrow. So these are sort of extraordinarily sort of bumpy looking ridges in the arable field. and they're experimenting with the degree to which ridge and furrow can help us in relation to climate change, because the ridge, crops grow well on the ridge in a wet year because it's not too damp, but it's damp enough. In the furrow, they grow well in a dry year because the soil is damp enough, even though it's drier up on the ridge. And in a sort of average year, they grow well across both. So our extraordinary colleague Klaus Kropp, who's been experimenting there for the last decade or so, is doing this amazing work, working with scientists and agroecologists and also medieval archaeologists.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah,
I was going to say, I think for me, I love the Rijksmuseum. I think it's probably the museum outside of England that I've been to the most, because I love Amsterdam as well.
So you're basically haunting it.
Yeah. No, I think I really really like the Rijksmuseum, and I really like, in London, I really like the Wellcome Collection. I think they do really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not massive, but I like the exhibitions they do.
I like the Jenke Shonabari sculpture in the Being Human gallery of the Wellcome Collection. And it's an amazing sculpture called Refugee Astronaut. And the astronaut is wearing all these West African textile colours. So it's a reference to migration and movement and diaspora. But carrying on his back a bag, a sort of sack full of really interesting objects, a kind of assemblage of objects that speak to questions of migration and movement. And in amongst them is a suitcase that looks like exactly the kind of suitcases that evacuees were sent out of London with during the Second World War. So that, these little hints of other movements and migrations and navigations going on there. Amazing sculpture.
I think I love small museums as well. I mean, I'm trying to like scramble my thoughts to think of them, but it's almost like any town you go to, like in England, I feel like almost any town, if it has a museum, you should just go to the museum because there is history everywhere. And I think I just love the care that people take in telling these stories that matter to sometimes to quite small groups of people, but it's still going back to that point about haunting. You just learn about a place. And I mean, a shout out to Reading Museum as well, which I think is fantastic for, all kinds of things, like really interesting local stories and also just amazing unexpected stuff. Like Reading Museum has a full-size replica of the Bayeux Tapestry,
which hopefully we'll be talking about in a future podcast.
Yeah, we're chatting to our great colleagues there tomorrow about planning future episodes. So yeah, exciting. So I think we've got about 10 minutes more, if you're okay with that.
Okay. Do you want a totally random connection through to absolute units from Whitby?
Yeah.
Okay, so Whitby is the place where Captain Cook came from.
Yep.
On Cook's second voyage, he went with Sir Joseph Banks, who wasn't knighted, I don't think, at that point in time. But Joseph Banks is a famous botanist and ends up very heavily involved in Kew and is sort of connected to royalty. And this is in a period when agricultural improvement is a major thing. And Joseph Banks, in another claim to fame, is sort of bound up in the way in which we get merino sheep from Spain. So merino sheep are very closely controlled by actually the royal family of Spain, who make decisions about where they can go. And the royal family gift small flocks of merino sheep to other royal families across Europe, but not to the English. So the English go sneakily through the back door or through Portugal and get hold of some merino sheep, which play a major part in improving sheep breeds in the United Kingdom. And Joseph Banks is involved in some way in that process, but he's also involved in early experiments with ear tags. So the tags that we put on livestock ears, they come about in that same period of agricultural improvement, and Joseph Banks plays a weird tangential part in that. So there you go.
Very interesting. And where does Dracula come in?
Dracula does not come in a significant way to that at all, I think.
He was wearing a beautiful merino shawl as he arrived in Whitby.
There is a sequence in, what's that Dracula series? The books that then got made into a film with Tom Cruise.
Interview with the Vampire.
Interview with the Vampire.
I love that show so much. If someone, I don't think anyone's asked this, but like if someone were to ask what's our favourite TV series, that would be one of mine, I think.
Is there not? There's a character in that who ends up sort of surviving on the fringes, drinking the blood of animals rather than.
Yeah, because I've forgotten his name, but the lead, he doesn't like drinking human blood, so he drinks animals. And then, yes, in the modern day, he's living in some big high-rise drinking animals.
Yeah, but which animals? Are they livestock?
No, but I think he definitely consumes a rabbit in like the first episode.
Okay.
But this maybe is a good Halloween episode we can do about like
Tangential.
Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah.
And also I think we need to do...
we'll have to try and remember the characters' names. Is there one called Lestat?
Lestat is the... In the series, Lestat is the older vampire.
Okay.
The character's name is Louis de Pontelac.
Nice.
An amazing show.
Excellent.
Have you seen Sinners?
I have not, but I've really good. I've heard good things about it.
You should watch Sinners. Yeah. You should watch Sinners. Okay. So the next question is, I think, let's try and make this quick because we could spend an hour talking about this.
Okay.
What was the impact of the Enclosure Acts on class relations and ruling class wealth in rural England?
Big.
Yeah.
Major. Yeah. Watch this space. We'll talk to Guy Shrubsole. We might talk to John Moses. We've had those amazing conversations with Katrina Navickas. So go back and listen to those episodes.
And check out Katrina's book as well.
Yeah.
That came out last year.
Contested Commons.
Yeah. But yeah, great question. Sorry, I should have said who that was from. The last question was from user Raystonian. Thank you, Raystonian. Yeah. The next question is from Wendy Qualls. Hi, Wendy. I hope I pronounced your name right. Wendy says, do your staff all come from rural life backgrounds? Any funny stories about non-natively rural employees going, wait, that's actually a real thing people still do? But I feel like me not knowing what oats are is probably a good example of this. But I am from a rural background. Like I grew up in the middle of Lincolnshire, which is the East Midlands. The Midlands might not mean very much to people from America, but it's basically
fairly self-explanatory.
But I do think England is mostly north and south, and the Midlands is this uncomfortable
hinterland. Middleland.
Yeah, well, it is, isn't it? But yeah, I grew up with a farm on the opposite side of our house. That's a bad way of describing that. There was a farm behind our house, so I heard all the animals all the time. But there were no oats, as far as I know.
I think the people in the farm are thinking there's a house behind our farm.
They were. they probably were.
That boy over there doesn't know what an oat is. That boy doesn't
know what an oat is. It's okay. He will learn in 26 years' time.
Yeah.
But he's doing a podcast for a rural history museum.
Yeah.
Ollie,
or not. I mean, we still haven't really defined an oat.
No, we haven't defined that oat. But yeah, not all of our staff come from rural backgrounds.
Yeah, I think I probably come from the most embedded in agricultural and farming life kind of background, but I haven't been in that world for a very long time. So I grew up on a farm, and obviously have lots of family and connections with farms, and but it's often only a generation or two removed. You know, someone often has a relative or a connection with rural life.
My grandma had a farm.
Where was that?
Essex.
Okay.
Because they had basically they lived in East London and then they left East London during the Blitz and they moved to Essex and they had a farm. And then when my grandma was pregnant with my dad, so I never met my grandma, when she was pregnant with my dad, one day she was inside and she heard a loud noise and she chose to hide under a table and the farm got wiped out by a V2 rocket.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. So they lost everything in London. They lost everything in
your farming heritage blown up by a V2.
Yeah. I think it was quite a short farming heritage. I don't think they did it very long, but
that would be enough to put you off, really.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had one really good question from Bluesky user Anna3. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Anna asks, which item in another museum's collection would you most like to poach? We're not going to answer that, but we are going to slightly change it. to say which item in another museum's collection would be most useful in a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the reference to poaching because I think that's a good nod to that enclosure question as well. That maybe we could think of all of the contents of all of the museums as a collective commons that we all have access to. This is material shared heritage held in trust for us all. So
I don't know about you. I'd go to the tank museum.
Just get tooled up.
I'm getting a tiger.
Yeah. Well, I sort of like the idea that in the collections here, if we're in some sort of survivalist, post-apocalyptic, it's maybe not ideal for dealing with the zombies, but it might be ideal for carving out a new kind of bucolic pastoral existence to have a few plows and hand tools. And
we need people with that mindset for zombie apocalypse, because I've changed my answer. I would actually go to the hovercraft museum in Leon the Solent. I'm going to be out at sea. Joe's
just Googling museums left, right, and centre.
No. I know that there's a hovercraft museum. I just didn't know where it was. Yeah. Shout out to the hovercraft museum. I would go there and I'd get a hovercraft and I'd go out to sea. I'd hover just off the ground so the zombies couldn't reach.
I feel, this seems... Yeah, this is not the kind of zombie apocalypse response that I was imagining.
But
You've gone all high tech.
You're thinking long term, and I'm thinking short term. You're thinking ground. I'm thinking sky.
Yeah, I'd be worrying about the degree to which you can continue powering that hovercraft for that much longer, because you're going to run out of the fossil fuels you need to power it.
You just need it as far as you just need to hover as far as it takes to get out of the shoreline, because those zombies can't swim.
And then just float there in the hope that I'm going to cultivate some wheat or maybe grow you an oat.
I'll come back many years later. I'll ask, what is an oat? Yeah, we'll both be really long, really bearded. It's like 50 years' time. Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to go. That's getting deleted. And we'll lock eyes. And then I'll say, what is an oat? And you'll be like, oh, it's you. From the podcast.
I'll be like, have an oat, Joe.
Have an oat.
Yeah, just the one.
Have an oat.
But you're not going to live that long on your hovercraft with nothing else, because all you've got is a hovercraft. All you've
got is your hovering.
That's run out of fuel partway across the channel.
It's good to dream, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
good to dream.
You could just pop upstairs here and get a coracle. We have a coracle. You take that down the river, go to that island in the middle of the Thames, grow out.
That'll be good.
Job done.
Okay, I'm just going to pick one last question.
Go to the Fobney Marsh.
Go to the Fobney Marsh.
Yeah. Do zombies cross bogs?
I don't know, but that's good. It's a good question to ask.
Yeah, because, stomping down a nice circular area around the Fobney Marsh and, getting Adrian involved.
Yeah. Final question. Do you have any cookbooks, or what would have served that function in your collection? And if so, when will you do a podcast episode on them?
Ooh.
We do have a few cookbooks.
I think we do have we have some good cookbooks. We're not a museum of food, though.
No.
There is a food museum, the artist formerly known as the Museum of East Anglian Life, now the Food
and
Museum.
that question was asked by She Rides a Bike, Bluesky user. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, She Rides a Bike. There are interesting recipe books in the library, I'm sure. We have a cheese book on display, I think, Cooking with Cheese.
We do, because Felicity McWilliams, our former colleague, wrote a blog post about making a cheese curry from the book.
Is it still one of the most popular blog posts that we have? Yeah.
Actually, it's been eclipsed a bit, but for a long time it was our most popular blog post. It's called the Cheese Curry Experiment.
Put it in the show notes.
I will. But the reason why, unfortunately, I think the reason why it was so popular is because it ranked really, really highly on Google for searches related to paneer curry. Okay. So people were looking up recipes.
And they'd come across 1970s
they were
or
finding us. Yeah, they were finding us. So It's amazing how people get introduced to museums.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have other cookbooks. We have Mrs. Beaton's cookbook from the 19th century, The Guide to Keeping a House.
Yeah, that's very...
Because a former colleague, Holly Piff, did a great blog post, again, where she cook through some of the recipes in there. So
Yeah. I seem to remember
links in the show notes.
Yeah, I seem to remember some years ago taking receipt of some archival material for our archive colleagues when some objects came into the collections. I want to say this was archive material collected by Mary Wondrush, the potter, the late Mary Wondrush, who was a studio potter, a slipware potter, who lived in Farnham or near Farnham, not far from here. We have objects of hers in the collection. And there's a photo of some of her own ceramic collection in the displays. But when I collected some items from her, she also gave us a recipe book, but it was a handwritten recipe book. And I think it was from a family who had been in colonial service in India in the 19th century. So there were amazing kind of recipes from that cultural encounter where you're getting people cooking with spices, but perhaps cooking English dishes, reminding us of the fact that the word curry is an Old English word, and that many of these sort of dishes that we think of as from being other parts of the world are actually meeting points. So I think in that recipe book, if I remember correctly, there are recipes written down during the siege of Lucknow.
Wow.
So, the sort of bizarre way in which a recipe book also serves as a sort of
meeting place,
a capturing of a moment in time, a really significant moment in time.
Well, what a way to end this conversation in which we've engaged with our listeners and also talked about the many connections that museums have to the world and to the past. Museums are complicated but amazing.
Yeah.
I do think that we're like the luckiest people working in museums and with museum collections.
And that last example has just reminded me that, my memory is not as good as it once was. So, museums are important as cultural memory.
Yeah.
Places where we need the hooks to remember things.
Yeah. We need to go because we're about to do the late. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you everyone for asking your questions. And more than anything, thanks for being with us in the last year, because we massively appreciate it.
Yeah. We look forward to chatting to you for another year at least, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. And if you like this format of us taking questions, please let us know, because we could do it in more episodes. Ollie's laughing, but we can, And I say we can while I stare down Ollie.
Yeah, you stare me down.
Yeah.
No. And in response, I give you a note.
A note. I'll take a note.
Just singular. It's the only one you're getting.
One note. One note is all it takes. Thank you so much.
See you next time. See you next time.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Absolute Judas. I don't know. Maybe we don't need to do that for this one. I'll just say... Why are you laughing? What's funny about
that? I don't know. It's just
like, straight in.
Yeah.
Absolute Units is made possible by Museums Partnership Reading, our Arts Council funded partnership with Reading Museum. Peace out.
Rides off into the sunset on his hovercraft.
Yeah, that's how we're ending this. See you.